Learning by doing. I've never used the Screencastify on Google Chrome before, so I didn't know that it cut me off after 10 minutes. Huh. Anyway, as I was saying, um, some of the main purposes of constructionism is the idea of learning by doing, and in Dr. Pappert's case, specifically looking at how technology can play a strong role in the experience that learning can provide if given the student-centered environment. He claims that it's not just about computers, and it emphasizes on the learning process and the thinking about learning. I made strong connections with his purpose and how he goes about this in some of my discussion posts I had made throughout the semester in talking about one-to-one technology. Although he is claimed to be one of the first founding voices of introducing one-to-one technology integrating into the school system, I thought it was really interesting how that has been, I'm going to claim maybe misinterpreted by schools just because of, I'll use my own district for an example. We jumped in with a lot of funding. We went all the way in with one-to-one technology. Everyone, all students, grades 5 through 12 have access to technology, specifically Chromebooks, one-to-one. But it's unfortunate how much our teaching and instruction has not caught up to the availability of those devices. So in leaning into that, I wanted to make some connections with some of the things that we've already talked about in our discussions, and how important having the technology, but more importantly, having the purpose for the technology is really key in this case, and ultimately this overarching branch of constructionism and how that threads into that. I picked out 3 very specific learning models that we've gone through so far that really kind of connected into this, whether that be student related or actually teacher related. Clearly, we see our newest discussion that we're in the middle of with connected learning. Part of which the sole operator of connected learning is very student-centered, as I'm sure you can agree with me, understanding some of the meaning and purpose threads throughout constructionism, that it has to take on a more personal meaning for students. Learning by design also threads into this idea, because if we're creating an actual product, something that's tangible, something that's shareable, we're actually learning by design. We're designing what we want to learn about and going through the motions of really thinking about the learning, thinking about a process, designing an outcome that has goals. And with design, as I'm sure you can well agree, especially in the middle of your redesign project, there are successes and there are failures and there are tweaks and there are goals that we're trying to formulate and achieve throughout this process. And then lastly, I threw TPAC in there, relating back to the one-to-one concept insofar as understanding our goals and our needs for technology in and of itself. If we're going to ask kids to construct meaning, we ourselves as educators need to be prepared for the technology we need to have to support kids in that endeavor. To assume kids and teachers are well equipped to maximize the use of, say, Chromebooks in my district's case, would not necessarily would be a false assumption. It just doesn't. It hasn't been given the time to situate itself very well to have its maximum effect. The next slides that I want to share with you are some personal experiences that I've had in my own classroom, as I am a 13-year teacher, and within the last 3 years, I've kind of really flipped my classroom, not in the sense of actually flipping, but in the sense that I have really flipped my pedagogy and my thinking and my use of technology and all those ideas upside down. And I shook them and I rearranged them. And I come learning more about constructionism. I feel like I have definitely walked along this path and didn't even realize it. So I'm excited to share some of my personal stories with you next.